behalf of myself and Kirsten Rolski, we'd like to welcome you to Scoop's Theatre of the Books. First timers here, please, can I just see your hands quickly? Shame on you. Shame on you. I'm going to be very short this week tonight because I can't wait to get into this program. Shame on you. So Gerry has asked me to please all just get undressed quickly. Because we want to take a groupie selfie for his next book. No response, Gerry.
My brother is here, please, no.
I just want to say thank you for coming to this launch tonight. If you know anything about schools, we do this on a regular basis. I'd like to just say thank you to Carl Kennedy, Kim Hunter, Andrew, Christie, Sarah Key, Paula Gruben. These names are the authors that have already launched in Scoops, and to welcome Natasha Sutherland here tonight as well. To Mr. Pelser, Gerry Pelser's debut novel, Discovering Leigh. Has anyone read it? Mm-hmm. So, equated to 50 Shades, yay or nay?
Oh yeah, way better.
Much better. Okay. Gerry was a bit afraid about this, and I said, don't worry, my authors write what they want to read, therein lies the magic. And there's some authors that write some pretty graphic stuff. And Andrew gave me an update and said, Ashley Tanakaro tops you, Gerry.
She should.
Yeah, I mean with the writing, so you don't. There's nothing for you to worry about at all. So we're very excited. I'm extremely excited. Gerry walked into my office. Can I tell the story?
No, because you make it as you go along.
Walked into my office and said, "My name is Gerry Pelser. I'm 40 years old. I'm going to be the essay."
I'm 43.
And I went, "Okay." Let me sit down for this one. Not really. But yes, that's how he introduced himself, and since then we've had a great relationship. And it's been wonderful. He writes beautifully. I love his posts on Facebook. I was told, you must stop swearing now, otherwise you're going to be Facebook banned. Like that. So, Gerry, I want to say thank you for coming into my life. Thank you for bringing this tone for me to read. And I want to congratulate you and welcome you to Scoops. And keep on writing. I think you write beautifully. And I'm so honored to have you in the store, and at last, there's nothing more to be afraid of. Everyone is here. Can we give him a round of applause? And I'm going to hand you over to his beautiful wife, Andrea, to take the rest of the evening away. Can we give her a round of applause? Oh, by the way, you have to buy books now. Okay.
Thanks, Deborah. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. As Deborah says, I'm Andrea, and I'm Gerry's wife. Sorry, a bit louder. A few weeks ago, when the whole concept of the book launch started coming together, Gerry and I were driving somewhere, and we were trying to think, of a few names of people we could ask to introduce him. We were going back and forth and thought, okay, well, it obviously needs to be someone who understands and who knows Gerry very well. And then we also thought, well, it needs to be someone, preferably, given Gerry's reputation for being a know-it-all arsehole, who would still be willing to say something nice about it. There was a bit of an awkward pause in the conversation. Finally, Gerry looked at me rather sheepishly and said, well, I even considered asking you. And I replied, well, why didn't you then? He said, well, for the same reason it took me 7 years to ask you to marry me. I was scared you'd say no. Well, here I am. confession to make. I have not read the book.
You're still married to me.
I have not read it because Gerry has specifically asked me not to. Well, until he wins the Pulitzer Prize. He is scared that I won't like it. He thinks of me as his harshest critic. And I know that sometimes I can be a bit hard on him, but it's just because I see a man with so much talent and potential, and I really want to see him achieve that. But I would like to say that even though I haven't read the book, I know I can promise you without a shadow of a doubt that Discovering Leigh be one of the most amazing books you will ever read. And I can say that because I watched Gerry for 6 months pour his entire heart and his entire soul into writing that book. And more than anyone else, I know that heart and I know that soul. And they are truly beautiful and amazing. So at this point, which is what the champagne was for, I'd like to propose a toast to Gerry. Mine's over there somewhere. No, it is. Gerry, well done, and I love you. Cheers. Gerry's going to speak now. I don't know how long it'll be, so please get comfortable. We will have a Q&A after Gerry's talk. So I'm going to hand you over to the man we're all here actually to listen to.
Hello everyone. I've been told to stop swearing, so I'll just say this now. I'm shitting myself. No, yeah, exactly. I imagined this moment for literally since I started thinking, and I sat in my car for months and rehearsed what I'm going to say, and every time I said it, it came out differently. So I wrote myself some grip notes to try and keep myself on track. And first of all, I'd just like to say thank you, Andrea, for that wonderful introduction. I really love you, and I need to be very careful not to make tonight an ode to you, because that's what I tend to do when you're around. Behind every man stands a woman, and in my case that couldn't be more true. And behind this book stands a woman, my standard 9 English teacher who told me I'll never amount to anything. So Mrs. Ludo, screw you. I did it. Okay, but okay, let's get serious here for a second. This is a fantasy, and I'll let me see if I can get the mic stand up so my hands stop shaking. Okay, let's try that. Stand-up comedy. Flew from Los Angeles and Boyle Mom's time. It's a fantasy that I've always had. I wrote and illustrated my first story when I was 7 years old, and it wasn't a great critical reception to your English grade 2 class. And I didn't actually show anybody what I did since then. I wrote hundreds of thousands, if not millions of words. Romy over there will remember the abortive effort that was Aqualia. Martin, Jean and I, we tried to do something in our mid-20s, and it was a royal bugger up. But it's a fantasy, and I'll tell you, the fantasy was always about being the writer, to sit in this mahogany panelled study with a big, thick, dusty dictionary and a fountain pen, paper clips. Tap away at a keyboard, and every afternoon at about 1:30 there'll be this polite knock on the door, and outside on a butler's tray there'll be lunch, little triangle cut sandwiches with the crusts cut off, and maybe a slice of fruits and glass of iced tea. I fucking hate iced tea. And after that, I'd take a walk through the forests, with a dog, maybe a chocolate Labrador, throwing sticks and, staring at the leaves and, pondering life's imponderables. And after about a year of this effort, to come out of that study with this big, thick tome and not bloody all. It couldn't have been further from the truth. This process has been anything if not chaotic. They told me I've got 20 minutes to speak tonight, so I'm not going to tell you how chaotic it was. But it was a very difficult birth, and it's here. But more than it not being a serene experience, it was certainly not a solitary one. And this is where I come to my thank yous tonight. Now, I know that the most boring thing on the planet is looking at somebody else's holiday pictures. And the second most boring thing on the planet is listening to somebody say thank you to other people. Like the Oscars, when they ramble off the entire LA phone directory and people they don't know. So I'm going to ask for your indulgence because there's people here I need to thank tonight. And to me, this is the important bit. I know for you it's the boring bit, but for me, this is why I'm here. So let me grab my crib notes. First of all, again, to my beautiful wife, Andrea. Without you, not only would this book be here, but I would not be here. And I'm not going to go into details, but you found me and you saved me. And I need to be very careful not to make this night about you, but thank you for absolutely everything. Second of all, is a person who isn't here tonight, and amazingly enough, a person I've never even met, and a person who begged me not to name them, and that is my benefactor. An evening like tonight is quite a big deal, and I never imagined it could happen. And I was speaking to this friend of mine, and this friend said, well, how much is it going to cost? And we worked out a number, and they said, okay, it's in. And a month later, the money was in my bank account, and I could do a print run, and I could book scoops. So thank you very much to my benefactor. Without you, tonight wouldn't be here. And third on the list is something a bit more emotional to me, and that is my late pal, Michaela. Those of you who know me will know what a profound impact Michaela had on my life. And the pain that Michaela gave me was the driving force behind this novel. So to those three people, thank you very much. To everybody else, you're not in order of importance. It's just that language, you need to say it in, you need to go 1, 2, 3. So don't think if you're at number 4, you're important. If you're number 29, you're not. Okay, it's just the way to do it. And I want to start with my open door readers. When I first had this novel come out, and I thought to myself, oh, damn, I think this is something. But I was wholly unsure of myself, and for those of you who's on the photography forums will know that I constantly speak to people about the Dunning-Kruger effects. Newbie people who think they're just the bee's knees, and they're like, no, you're not. And I'm thinking, Gerry, you're in that trap. And I needed to ask some people whether this thing is worth polishing and going, taking it from a rough cut to a fine cut. And those people are Angie, and other Angie who isn't here, Romy, Bronwyn who isn't here, where's Rosalind, the ladies that read this novel, and not only did they give me feedback, they actually gave me encouragement. And after that, I rewrote the book, feels like 19 times. It went to the editor. And the first editor was Jackie Jacobs, who isn't here tonight. She's an old lady, and unasked, unpaid, she edited my second manuscript. And after that, it went to my pal Gwen up in Botswana, who re-edited it for me. And then after I implemented Gwen's changes, which cut about 15,000 words of the book, it went to Flo. Not once, but twice. And Flo, I can tell you, I produced a lump of coal. You pressed it into a diamond. And without you, I shudder to think what this book would have been. Thank you very much. And Flo, those flowers over there tonight, they're yours. Please take them home, including the vase. You can leave the water. Thank you very much for editing my book. Then the publishing team, the people that's sorting for the logistics tonight, my generous hosts, Where's Debs, Deborah, Kirsty? Thank you very much, Andrew, for your infinite wisdom and advice. Paula, where's Paula? Hello, Paula, for letting me pick your brain at inopportune times, especially at inopportune times. Kimmy for the webcast, thank you for the publishing crew. My cover girl, Amy. Where's Amy? When the invite went out, quite a few of the male respondents asked, is the cover girl going to be there? And I said, yes, she is. And there she is, right next to her husband. So Karen, behave. My muses, Lucy, Liz, Roz, Yana, they'll know why. Natalie, where you? Thank you for making the gift bag a bit more interesting. And then to everybody here, bloody wow. That's all I can say. It's a truly humbling experience to stand here tonight and experience this. It is literally a dream. I never thought that this day would come. And here I am, and I'm with people that I love, people that I know, people who've come a lifetime. And somehow even more special, people I've never met. And that makes this evening absolutely freaking surreal. And that concludes the boring parts, but I would just like to say to everybody, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming to support this first-time novelist. Thank you for coming to try out my skills. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. No, stop, no applause. Thank you. Cheers. That's courage. Cheers. Okay, as said, the fun part of the evening is going to be the Q&A. And Andrea said she wants the microphone before I start that. But before we start the Q&A, I'm going to what? Sing. No, you don't want that. And not in a million years. Trust me, I've not been on The Voice for a reason. Q&A time. I'm going to ask my first question because there's a question that's on everybody's lips, and that question is, so Gerry, what is the book about? And the book is about 450 pages. It's about 175,000 words for scale that is bigger than Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Now, I'm not saying that as a meager opening joke. I'm saying that because it's real. It's a story that's been sitting in the back of my mind for many, many years, and I finally had the opportunity to write it. And before I tell you what the book is about, I think it's very important that I tell you what the book is not. And the book is not South Africa's answer to 50 Shades of Grey. Okay? I need to make that very clearly tonight, that this is not a book about kink. This is not a book about BDSM and about fetishism. I know a lot of people think it is, but it's not. At the end of the day, what it is a classic boy meets girl love story. And that's all it is. It's a love story. And when I set out to write this book, I wanted to write a good old classic feel-good coming-of-age story. And I'd like to credit myself in that I think I've achieved that. It's an honest book. It's a heartfelt book. And if every single writing course I've been on, and there's been a few, if you read books about writing, everybody always say that write about what you know. And if I was a professional sportsman, my brother here once played for the Lions for 15 minutes before he got tackled into ICU. If I was a sportsman, I would have set this book in the dressing room. And if I was an actor, it would have been in the rehearsal room. If I was a CEO, it would have been set in the boardroom. But I'm none of the above. I'm just, a house husband turned photographer and writer. But there was a very interesting time in my life before I met Andrea. And that time of my life, I was very much involved in the South African fetish kink BDSM scene. And I'm a kinky bastard. Okay, if you don't know that by now, what the hell are you doing here? Okay, and when it came to to write this book, I needed to place it in a setting, and it's placed in a very kinky setting. It's an extremely kinky book. I'm not ashamed of that. If you follow my photography and the things I say on Facebook, you know, my BDSM works are there for everybody to see. I mean, I've tied up many women in this room, which is a very weird thing to say taken out of context. But that's where it's set. But it's just a good old-fashioned love story. And I think it's at this point where I'm going to stop my waffling. Time to hand and grab back the mic. And thank you for coming. Please buy my book. And there's snacks, there's still some juice, there's still some books left over. Thank you for coming, everybody. This is an amazing moment in my life. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're going to have the Q&A now. Afterwards, there will be signing. So any of you who decide to buy a book, Gerry will put his name on it, other than what's already on the cover. There are 4 spot prizes for the most interesting questions. Okay, 2 for boys, 2 for girls. I will be the judge. So good luck.
Right, who's on first? Who wants to ask a question? Ask a question, any question? Okay, Kimmy's asking a question. Kimmy? Hang on, let me.
No, it won't eat. I have to ask because, you know, self-publishing and published. If you had had the opportunity for Jonathan Ball or whoever to publish a book for you, would you have gone that route, or do you appreciate the work and the effort that it's taken you to do it yourself?
Yes. I think it's obviously every writer's dream to go through the traditional publishing houses, you know, especially, you know, I read my first Stephen King when I was 12, you know, and you always have this, you know, oh, it's Scribner paperback. But the self-publishing thing has made this book just so much more special and so much more intense. And it's a lot more heartfelt now. So, yeah, I'm glad I went this way, but I would have loved the money from a big publishing deal. Yeah. Well, you know, tell that to L. James. She sold 350 million copies. I mean, I can do with it a fortune. Hey, wait, Navina over there wanted to say something, yeah?
I don't have a question, but I read this book 4 times. And I read it twice, the first 2 times because it was just a technical reading. And then I thought, well, this is very interesting, let me get into it. So I read it another 2 times. And the last time I read it was simply because it provided great insight. So no, it's not really about BDSM, although that is there. And it's great, because if you were never interested, it provides great insight. I know all the rules, and that's something I never knew even existed. I found some things that were very interesting about myself, and that's why I did the 4th reading. But essentially it is a love story, and it's just about regular people falling in love. People who are like you and me. They want to find love, they want to find contentment, they want to find acceptance. And these 2 people find it in each other in the most amazing way. I love the character development. It was done incredibly well. Not too much, not too little. You know these people. They resonate with you, the 2 main characters. And without giving too much away, there's enough love, there's enough betrayal, there's enough trust. I love the way that you spoke about Johannesburg, because I've now been here 20 years and it's my city. And I love it. So I love the way it moves. So, but most of all, this book for me was about acceptance. Acceptance of who you are, acceptance of the differences. Just be and love. Embrace it, whoever you may be and whatever you may be. So I would really encourage you to go and read that book, because I love. Please go.
You're catching this. Navina, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, just to clear that up, I didn't know Navina was reading my book. In fact, I didn't even know she existed until a week ago. So thank you, Lavina, for that. Okay, I've got 2 questions. This is going to be, okay, time for a boy. Andrew, then we'll get to Sandra.
We all know that you're a photographer. My camera isn't very good. You take a selfie of me for me.
Tonight, the designated photographer is my brother.
Get him up there to take some photos.
I'm sure he can, and just to make it clear, I am 9 years older than him, but I do have more hair. Sandra?
If you have to choose, you can have Sunday lunch with the author this Sunday. Who will it be?
That's a very interesting question. I hate being put on the spot like this. I think the obvious answer that everybody will expect is a guy called Steve King. But no, I won't invite Steve King. I will invite a guy called William Goldman, not to be confused with the William Golding of Lord of the Flies fame. William Goldman is my favorite novelist, and he last published a novel back in the 80s, and it's more's the pity for that. He's just got a sharp wit and insight into things that I think us mere mortals can only think about. Kimmy again. And Andrew again as well. And you.
I'm sorry, we've got lots of questions. What can I say?
Okay, please introduce yourself. Who are you?
Hi everyone, my name's Katie.
Hi, Katie.
I'm from PE with my lovely sister here.
Hello, lovely sister.
Yes. I just wanted to know more about you. What did you do before you decided to write this book? I heard photography, I heard tying up ladies. So I'd just like to understand a little bit more.
Thank you all for coming. Gerry's biography in 90 seconds or less. I always wanted to write, but I loved art more than I loved letters. So I went to study graphic design. When I studied graphic design, I discovered photography. After I discovered photography, like every good art student, I went to work in the corporate world, where I stayed for about 3 years. And then in '98, I left the corporate world, started my own web design company. I've done web design for most of my adult life. I discovered that there's not enough proper photos on stock photography websites to cater for my websites. Decided to take my own photos, discovered I'm better at photos than I am at web design. I became a semi-professional and then a professional photographer. In the meantime, I moved in with this wonderful woman over here, and I had the luxury of becoming a house husband. I cook, I clean, I play with the dogs, and I write books, and I teach photography, and I take photos, and that's me in a nutshell. But I haven't answered your question, have I? In 2002, I had the privilege of visiting my pal Krista over there in Seattle, Washington. And it was in Seattle, Washington where I discovered myself. And when I came back from 3 months in the States, I discovered this wonderful nightclub called Omega Nightclub. Some of you may remember it. I'm not looking at you, Tash. And there I discovered the Johannesburg fetish and bondage scene, and to my upper surprise, I was damn good at it. And I became a male pro-dom for about 4 or 5 years, until tall trees caught a bit of wind, and I decided, screw this is not for me. Bailed out of the scene, and about 3-4 months after I bailed out of the scene, met Andrea, and the rest is history. Okay, sister now. Pronoun. Okay. Imagine. Okay. This is a good question. I've got a great answer for it. That's a great question. Right. Next question. Okay. You know the classic image of a dominatrix. You know, the male version of it, except the wore jeans and a t-shirt. Anybody else? Okay, Christo and Tamisha. Okay, Andrew wants another one. Before I give you Andrew the other turn, I'm going to go to Christo.
I have one question for you. Just so that everybody knows, I have known Gerry for a very, very long time. And one of the reasons I appreciate it is I can call him any time in the morning on my way to work, whether it's early or late, and we talk, whether it's 5 minutes or 20 minutes. So I didn't know he was writing his book until he let me know a month ago, hey, he's a 30 years open. So my first question is directly for you. How the hell did you do that?
This book has been coming since 2006. It has had 5 different manuscripts, not rewrites, manuscripts. This manuscript was started on the 1st of March last year, and 6 months later it was finished. Like Andrea said earlier, I poured my heart and soul in it. Every single spare second I went out there and I just wrote. And after it was written, it went to the editors and it came back good. Okay.
My second question in terms of that is, obviously I've known you now for a long time, and I read just the section I can find on Amazon, by the way, instead of sort of on Kindle, all of that stuff I read too, so first congratulations. But second of all, as I started reading that, obviously I know some of the stories in your life, is this book, how close to your personal stories are these stories?
I was just scared someone was going to ask me that one. Need fortification for this one. How autobiographical is this? Very much and not at all. I think it's very difficult for a first-time fiction writer, novelist, not to be biographical. It's just, there will always be an impression of yourself in the book, and the 2 main protagonists and the antagonists are all, people that contain aspects of me, and they deal with things that I needed to deal with in life. And some of the events that happened are real events, and some of you might, imagine and see yourself in this book. There's a very obvious nod to Aiden over there. Some beautiful little corsets here in the book. But is it autobiographical? No, not at all. The story is wholly and utterly fictional. It's this is not based on real events, so there is nothing real about the book in terms of story and plotline. It's just a story, and the characters in the story battle and work out and work through things that I needed to work through in life. And I think, as I said, no first-time writer can get away with not doing that. Okay. Andrew, you raised your hand very.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, your photographic eye.
Yes.
And then you said something else I'd rather ask. You said that you found you were very good at BDSM.
Yep.
How do you measure that?
Natalie thinks she can answer that because her arm just shot up. Nats, come up.
No, I'll answer that.
Okay, 2 women is going to answer that. Thank you for coming on out.
He was asked to be on carte blanche. In fact, he was on carte blanche.
In fact, I was one of his models on carte blanche. I always have a very good way of testing a good BDSM artist, as Gerry is I am double jointed in my hands. If I can get out of a rope tie or a handcuff scenario, you're not that good. Gerry is quite good. There's a couple times I couldn't get out.
Only a couple though. Hey. Nisha, okay. I'll get to you. Nisha, I'll remember before you and then Angie. Okay. Others on that, okay. Nisha, up to you. We can reach. Come, stand up. Stand up. Talk to us.
Okay, let me just.
Come on, show us your slits. Look at that. What a dress.
Woo! Thank you. I bought it myself.
Hi guys, I'm Nisha. Whoa, caw. Anyway, so Mr. Gerry,
Yes.
as a vanilla person, will I learn more about things I want to learn, as you know, in this book? And also, will it open up doors in my own mind to answer for myself? I mean, I'm looking at lovely lady over there.
Will you learn something you didn't know? Well, I certainly hope so. I have been critiqued. I think there's proof. I have been critiqued that my book at times gets a bit too technical on the details. So bloody what? And will it open up your mind to things unexplained? Again, I bloody hope so. As said, well, let me do this, sorry. On the back blurb, the top line I ask, friendship, beauty, infatuation, kink, devotion, love, betrayal. Does any of it mean what you think it means? I ask these questions, but I don't necessarily provide answers. It's to open up the doors to your mind so you can provide your own answers. It's this book has layers. It's like an ogre, like an onion. It has layers, and I really hope that it does open some doors. Okay. I think you were next. Wait. The wife says wait. You're looking for the door.
I'm going to sit down.
What's on the other side? Can I? Wait your finger, damn it. That's a goal. That's a different goal.
He writes M for male and G for girl. We did have an argument.
No, but I also write B for boy.
Says you spot prize for.
Hey, you should have spot prize. Okay, I promise her first, and then I'll come back to you, and then I'll get back to Angie. Okay.
My question is, once the movie writer is sold, who would you choose to play Nike and Lee?
Who would I choose to be Nike and Leigh? Oh boy. That is an extremely difficult question for the simple reason I don't really watch a lot of TV and movies. But of course, everybody fantasizes about selling the movie rights. Good, give me a nice little $9 million deal here, okay? Movie rights, sell it, I'll fly all of you economy to Los Angeles so we can watch the movie, okay? Who would I like? Okay, Leigh, I looked up Sophie Turner, young actress. She's famous for Game of Thrones, actually. I think she fits the role. As Mikey, what's that guy that played in The Social Network? Jesse Eisenberg. Bit awkward, bit weird. Yeah, he'll do. And as the chief antagonist, the bad guy Wayne, I always wanted to see Chris Hemsworth in the bad guy role. I think he'll do that. Hey, here's up. Please introduce yourself. I know who you are.
Okay, my name is Jacques. Question. I mean, you obviously wrote this book from the heart, and it was a story, a fictional story that you poured your heart and soul into it. But did you get to a stage where you felt, shit, maybe I have to do some research, or maybe I have to go and explore, and maybe I have to find out a bit more about certain elements of the book? Was there any point that you reached that, or was it really just all from the heart?
Again, a very, very good question. And I think the easy way to answer that question is I wrote this book at 43 and not at 23. I needed a lot of life experience. As I said, I started writing this book in 96 already. 2006. I mean, that's 12 years that this book has been sitting in my mind. And I think many people attest that I'm a bit of a late bloomer, and I didn't quite get life until later on. So to answer your question, Jacques, is life has been my research. My inspiration came from my early days when I mucked about in interesting nightclubs. But that was only one part of the book. I needed to learn about love. I needed to learn about life. I needed to learn about devotion. I needed to learn about absolute caring for another. And that only came after Andrea came on the scene. That's raises her hand again.
With all your years of writing, did you think you'd be a romance novelist?
Go away. She asked in all my years of partying that I ever think I'll be a romance novelist. I've always been a romantic at heart. If not at head. Simple as that. Flo.
I don't really have a question, but I just would like to make an observation. You asked whether he had to research anything. The two things that come up in the book that are vitally important, which Gerry knows everything about, is BDSM and photography.
Angie,
Because that's my question.
finally your turn.
Sorry, I wanted you to give a prize and then you ran away.
Sorry. Angie, what's in this morning? Be the boy.
friends.
Well, maybe I won't.
Okay, that's it.
So there's obviously a lot of photographers here, and you have a lot of photography friends. So taking your two passions of photography and rope tying, when is the workshop on how to photograph rope tying?
You mean you missed it?
Also, can I be a model?
It's amazing how many people actually ask me this. It's embarrassing. I'm grossly out of practice. I don't even tie my shoes anymore. But maybe I'll upskill.
Because you can't reach.
You know, I'm just a bit bloated, but it's been 12 years.
After reading the book, I had visions of photographing rope tying.
Okay, well, cool.
I'm not. I've got some last 10
Gilbert. Okay, let's put that one on the hold button and let's see what we can do, because so many people actually asked me that I might need to give it some thought. Gilbert?
As a pro dom, how are you finding the transition to pro sub now?
Give that man a bottle. Give that man a bottle. He said, how does it feel transitioning from a pro dom into a pro sub now that I'm married? Strangely rewarding. Hang on. Okay, go for it.
So a while back then we discussed the shoot where you are my model. So I want to ask you.
We did?
Yes. So I want to ask you if you can change it up a bit and add your wife to the shoot.
Not a chance in hell.
What was the question?
Go listen to that question and tell me.
Don't say too much.
Sorry guys, I'm really enjoying this.
So a while back we discussed that he's going to be my model. But now I'm asking if you can change it up a bit and add you to the shoot. No.
Not a chance in hell. I'm a professional photographer. I've got 3 photos of my wife.
The first picture I ever got of me was at our wedding when we'd been together for 9 years. So
That's awesome.
Thanks for coming, Amy. Okay. Oh, okay. Dibs. I hope so. Is Andrea going to read the book? I hope so.
Tulips depends how many people buy it.
Please buy it, you know. Sarah? Yeah, Sarah doesn't need to buy the book. She won it in the competition. Oh, please do. Give me you again.
Yes. All the people who have read the book, put your hands up. How many of you have put a review on Goodreads or Amazon or anywhere else?
No shilling clock, ne?
Please, when you've read the book, put your reviews up.
Please,
Any
please.
platform.
I have asked, and actually, sweetie, please just hold the microphone for a second. I've been accused of being unprofessional many times in my life, but let me show you the most unprofessional thing I've ever done. Right at the end, after my author's note, there is a link to my Goodreads page. You can scan it, you don't even need to type it in. Please go leave me a review. For a writer, reviews are literally a matter of life and death. I said earlier, my first book, photography book, if I spent the hours on my photography book working as a minimum wage security guard, I would have made more money. Okay, so please support me and buy my book. Tell your friends, tell everyone. I would like to carry on doing this, but right now I'm out there looking for a day job. So please just buy my book. Yeah, looking after you. She's back.
Can you please read us your favorite paragraph in the book?
Easy answer, no, I can't. And there's a reason, okay? This is not me being nasty. The book is very linear, and everything needs context onto each other. And in order to understand any given paragraph in the book, even my favorite one, you need to know what came before that, and need to know what came before that. It was a very long discussion on whether I'm going to do a reading tonight or not, and the answer at the end of the day was sorry, no.
I have a suggestion, seeing as you were asking questions about BDSM, is why don't you read the rules? Someone was mentioning that they didn't know there were rules.
Perfect.
Okay, the rules. Okay. Where's Mike stand?
Does that take context?
Okay. No, the rules doesn't take context. In fact, it creates context. Okay, so let me illustrate here. I'm going to turn my back to some of the crowd and to the front of the other crowd. I've got my copyright page, I've got my dedication. And right after the dedication, I have the rules. Some of you might recognize this. Rule number 1, keep it consensual. Nothing happens without mutual consent. No means no. It takes 2 yeses to make a game. It takes a single no to stop it. Rule number 2, have fun. If it stops being fun, stop doing it. This is not an outcome, it is a point of departure. This is not a goal or a suggestion, this is a rule. This does not mean you're allowed to use this rule to escape taking responsibility for your actions. Rule number 3, do not give what you cannot take or have not taken. Treat others the way you want to be treated, and never expect from another that which you cannot expect from yourself. And rule number 4, do not kink and drink. Alcohol just diminishes the experience and leads to stupid decisions. Do not play while drunk or under the influence of any other substances. If you cannot respect the rules, do not engage with the game. And for those of you that paid attention, rule 1, 2, and 3, keep it consensual, have fun. Do not give what you cannot take or have not taken. It doesn't just apply to BDSM, it applies to life. Sweetie, what bag have we got there? A boy bag?
Female.
Female bag. Okay, I need a girl to ask an interesting question. No, Andrew, you do not count. Come on, girls. Come on, ask a question. Female bag. Okay, Sarah.
The next book. Yes, no, maybe, yes,
Okay, next book. Yes, no, maybe. Yes, no, and maybe. Discovering Leigh as she stands right there is a complete book. It stands on its own as a whole. It doesn't need a follow-up. This isn't a bait and switch trick where on the last page you're going to go, oh crap, what's next? Give me the next one. It's whole. But it can have a sequel. And as I reached the end of discovering Leigh, I discovered there's something else left to say. And I'm about 150 pages into the sequel. But having said that, at this stage it looks like a bit of like a construction site. There's a little bit there, you know. It's a mess. When and if it will be completed, I do not know. Right now, life needs living. I do not have as much time to write as I would like. I would love to have a sequel to Discovering Leigh, but that all depends on whether life will allow me to. Peter.
Sorry. I just did want to actually give the sisters.
That's a problem.
The younger one or the older one?
Well, it
That's not bad.
I can see if you get sides.
Oh, no, thank you. Peter, come on, ask the question. I can't go to this.
So I'm on to the pages.
How many pages in my book? How many pages in my book? Okay, that's the acknowledgements, that's the authors, that's what ends. 441. Angela, a second. The day my proof arrived, because I wrote this obviously on a computer and I laid it out on InDesign and everything, and you know, and 441 pages is an abstract, and then this proof arrived, and I'm like, holy crap, that's not a book, that's a brick. Like, look at this thing, it's huge. You know, Aiden was at my place a week ago, and she's like, holy shit, that's a real book. I'm like, I know. Somebody raised their hand. Natalie, you raised their hand again.
Are you more looking at writing sequels or a series of individual stories?
I don't know. That's the honest answer. The book that I'm busy with incorporates the same characters to a lesser extent, but it's not a sequel. It's not a series. It's a follow-up, but it will be its own standalone story.
After he's cleaned the pool.
After I clean the pool, you can see it looks like a bloody swamp. Okay, anybody more? Any more questions? Give me a selling me time. People, that concludes the Q&A. Please buy my book. I'm going to be out there and sign books. But I can only sign books that have been bought, so if you haven't bought it, I can't sign it. Thank you very much. This has been an absolute blast. Thank you.
Brilliant.